All right, everybody. Greetings, everyone. What's going on? It's your girl Tiffany coming through right here live in effect. So tonight I am revisiting the topic, the Rastafarian movement, and tonight I'm going to be speaking about the Mansion of Rastafari. So the Mansion of Rastafari is consists of Bobo Ashanti, uh, Naya Binhi, and also the 12 tribes of Israel. So those are the three. All right. But what I want to do is I want to go back and revisit the topic on the Rastafari movement, right? And I'm gonna be discussing uh who were the founders of these movements, or who was considered as the first Rasta, and who also the founder of the Bobo Ashanti and the 12 tribes of Israel, etc. So I'm gonna go into all of that. But yeah, I want to make sure that I go back and redefine what the Rastafari movement is and how it came about. So I'm not gonna spend too much long on this information, but let's go ahead and get started. All right, so right here, if you guys can see my screen, I'm on the page where on wiki1.com and where it says Rastafari. So let's get in to what the Rastafari movement was and how it came about. So according to Wiki1, Rastafari, also known as Rastafarianism and Rastafari movement, is a religion that developed in Jamaica during the 1930s. It is classified as both a new religious movement and a social movement by scholars of religion. There is no central authority in control of the movement, and much diversity exists among practitioners who are known as Rastafari, Rastafarians, or Rastas. Now, the beliefs are based on a specific interpretation of the Bible. Central, it is a monolithic belief in a single God referred to as Jah, who is deemed to partially reside within each individual. Rastas, according to Haile Selassie, the emperor of Ethiopia between 1930 and 1974. Key importance. Many regard him as the second coming of Jesus and Jah incarnated, while others see him as a human prophet who fully recognizes the inner divinity in every individual. Rastafari is Afrocentric and focuses attention on the African diaspora, which it believes is oppressed with Western society or Babylon. Many Rastas call for this diaspora resettlement in Africa, a continent they consider the promised land or Zion. Some practitioners extend these views into black supremacism. Rastas refer to their practices as Leviticity. Communal meetings are known as groundiations and are typified by music, chanting, discussion, and the smoke of cannabis. The latter regarded as sacrament with beneficial properties. Rastas emphasize what they regard as living naturally, adhering to Ital dietary requirements, twisting their hair into dreadlocks, and following patriarchal gender roles. All right. Now, I'm going to read this paragraph right here. It says Rastafari originated among impoverished and socially disenfranchised Afro-Jamaican, communities in 1930s Jamaica. Its Afrocentric ideology was largely a reaction against Jamaica's then dominant British colonial culture. It was influenced by both Ethiopianism and the Back to Africa movement promoted by Black nationalist figures such as Marcus Garvey. The movement developed after several Protestant Christian clergymen, most notably Leonard Howe, proclaimed that Haile Selassie, crowning as Emperor of Ethiopia in 1930, fulfilled a biblical prophecy. By the 1950s, Rastafari's countercultural stance had brought the movement into conflict with wider Jamaican society. including violent clashes with law enforcement. In the 1960s and the 1970s, it gained increased respectability within Jamaica and greater visibility abroad through the popularity of Rasta-inspired reggae musician, most notably Bob Marley. Enthusiasm for Rastafari declined in the 1980s following the deaths of Haile Selassie and Marley, but the movement survived and has presence in many parts of the world. All right. It says the Rasta movement is decentralized and organized on a largely sectarian basis. There are several denominations or mentions of Rastafari, the most prominent of which are the Nabihi, Bobo Ashanti, and the 12 tribes of Israel, each offering a different interpretation of Rasta belief. There are an estimate of 700,000 to 1 million Rastas across the world. The largest population is in Jamaica, although small communities can be found in most of the world's major population centers. Rastas come from various ethnic groups, although the majority are of Black African descent, and some mentions accept only Black members. All right, so that's to give the little background of what the Rastafarian movement is about, okay, and how it came into the picture. So basically, what influenced the Rastafarian movement is the concept of Black nationalism. All right, the idea of Black nationalism and Ethiopianism. So what is Ethiopianism? They're a form of Christianity. All right, so Haile Selassie, the emperor of Ethiopia at the time, he was a Christian. He was a Coptic Christian. Okay, so it was the Ethiopian ideology of Christianity and the Black nationalism that brought about the Rastafarian movement. Now we're going to look at the person who was considered as the first Rasta, Leonard Howe, or they say he was the founder. So we're going to look at his information, but I want to show a picture of who he is first. Okay. Hey, Candy, how you doing? And peace, Carlos, how you doing? I see y'all. Thank y'all for coming through. All right, so let me go ahead and show y'all a picture of this brother. So this brother right here, this is Leonard Howe. This is Leonard Howe, okay? This is when he was very young. So he was considered as one of the first Rasta. Okay, he was born in Jamaica. So that's him. But I have more information about him. We're going to go there momentarily. All right, so let's go ahead and look up information about Leonard Howe. And who was he? Okay, I hope you guys can see that. All right. So who was Leonard Howe? Leonard Howe, who was born on June 16, 1898, and February 25th, 1980, and he died February 25th, 1981. Also known as the Gong or Gigi Marag for Gun Guru, was a Jamaican religious figure. According to his biographer, Helene Lee, Howe was born into an Anglican family. He was one of the first preachers of the Rastafari movement, along with Joseph Hibbert, Archibald Dunkley, and Robert Haynes, and is known by many as the first Rasta. All right, so Okay, it says he was born in Maycraw River, Jamaica. Howe left the country as a youth, traveling to many places, including Panama and New York, and returned in 1932. He began preaching in 1933 about what he considered the symbolic portent for the African diaspora, the crown of Rastafari, Makani, as Emperor Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia. His preaching asserted that Haile Selassie was the Messiah returned to earth, and he published a book called The Promised Key. Although this resulted in his being arrested, tried for sedition, and imprisoned for 2 years, the Rastafarian movement grew. Over the following years, Howe came into conflict with all the establishment authorities in Jamaica: the planters, the trade unions, established churches, police, colonial authorities. Howe was seen as a threat largely due to the anti-colonial message of the Rastafarian movement, which he was perpetuating along with the sermons promoting the idea of a positive Black racial identity. Local ruling elites were uneasy with Howe's popular call for Black people to take a stand. Colonial authorities hoped to quell Howe's growing movement early so as to snuff out support early on. As his following grew, the threat of Howe's core beliefs in the power of Black people to overcome white oppression, and his movement expanded to become an international concern given his strong messages of Black liberation and Pan-Africanism that resonated with Blacks across the globe. He formed a town or commune called Pinnacle in St. Catherine Parish that became famous as a place for Rastafari. This movement prospered, and today the Rastafari faith exists worldwide. Unlike many Rasta, Howe never wore dreadlocks. Leonard Howe died in February 1981 in Kingston, Jamaica. All right. So, as you can see, it goes into more details about his life or whatnot. So, we're going to skip some of that information. And let's go down here. It says Howe lived abroad for a total of some 20 years in his early life, during which time he was arrested and jailed for his involvement with the UNIA because the organization pro-Black messages were viewed as threatening. After migrating to Panama and the United States, he eventually returned home in December 1932 at the age of 34 after being deported from the U.S. He was deported because of his involvement with the UNIA, which was perceived as threatening by the U.S. government due to the organization's message of Black power and anti-colonialism. Upon return to his homeland, he decided to leave his family home and spread the word about Rastafarianism. This decision to break away from his home was due to a conflict between Howe and his family, presumably because of his controversial belief in the divine nature of Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia. All right, so it goes down to his personal life. He married a woman named Tennant, whose grave in Pinnacle is said to have been desecrated. Howe's eldest son is named Monty Howe. Very little information is available about Tennant, their marriage, or other children of Leonard Howe. All right. So, with that being said, that's his story. That's his legacy. It's more information on here. If you want to look it up, you can look it up on your own accord. You can find it on Wiki1/Wikipedia. Okay, so let's see down here real fast. It says core values, leadership, and social network. Among his followers, Howe preferred being called Gangunguru Marag or Gigi Marag to distinguish his ritual mystical personality from his secular identity. Howe's ritual name is thought to be a combination of 3 Hindi words: Gun, wisdom; Gun, virtue of talent; and Guru, teacher. In Hindi, Marag means great kings or kings of kings. Howe used his name as a pseudonym when he published The Promised Key. All right. So Also, it says during a meeting at Port Morton, St. Thomas in September 1933, it is recorded that Howe had a meeting that began with the singing of hymns. Then Howe reportedly taunted clergymen of other religious denomination at the gathering and discouraged people from attending church because ministers were liars. He also spoke critically of slavery, claiming that the white man stole Africa from the Africans and that black people should think that Africa is their home, not Jamaica. Interesting. Howe's message of praise for Emperor Haile Selassie also came with an open call for black supremacy as a way to combat colonialism and reject oppression by whites. At times, Howe would ask his congregants to join together and sing God Save the King being Haile Selassie. Howe's central doctrine acted as a force against white colonial ideology due to his placement of blackness as morally superior to whiteness, as is explained in his widely read publication, The Promised Key. All right. So as you can see, he was very charismatic and very radical. So by him being a very radical person and being charismatic, it caused a lot of conflict within the Jamaican government because he was preaching about Haile Selassie and how he's pretty much the king and compared him with Jesus Christ. So yeah, it brought about conflict. And then the fact that he was deported back to Jamaica due to his involvement with the UNIA, which was considered as a radical movement at the time because they felt like Marcus Garvey was a threat. This, the U.S. government, they felt like Marcus Garvey was a threat, and he was trying to evoke violence and trying to cause black people to become rebellious and have this extremist attitude in a sense. So they got a new term now where they call you black identity extremists. So that's what Marcus Garvey and Leonard Howe will be considered as a black identity extremist because of their radical views and their ideas of centered around Pan-Africanism and black people unifying and having their own and the idea of black supremacy and etc. So yeah. So that's the information about Leonard Howe. So let's get into the topic about the Mansion of Rastafari. Okay. So what I want to do is, okay, just want to make sure I got all the information. So let's go ahead and look up the information about the Mansion of Rastafari. Hopefully y'all can see that screen right here. All right. So Mansions of Rastafari, and that's Haile Selassie right there. Mansions of Rastafari is an umbrella term for the various groups of the Rastafarian movement. Such groups include the Bobo Ashanti, Nyabingi, and the 12 tribes of Israel, and several smaller groups, including African Unity, Covenant Rastafari, Messianic Dreads, and the Selassian Church. The term is taken from the biblical verse in John 14:2, in my Father's house are many mansions. All right. Many individual rosters are only loosely affiliated with these mansions or not at all, in keeping with the principle of freedom of conscience, a general distrust of institutionalism shared by many, and the teachings of Haile Selassie the first as emperor that faith is private and a direct relationship requiring no intermediary. Beliefs differ between the mansions with varying views on the Bible, dreadlocks, diet, and ganja. So ganja is what they smoke. You know, that pipe they be smoking on. That ganja, that big old pipe they smoke. That's the ganja. Yeah, they smoke. Yeah, it's a big pipe too. Anyways, let's get back to it. All right, so let's look at the Bobo Ashanti. All right. So who were the Bobo Ashanti? And how did the Bobo Ashanti came about? All right. So Bobo Ashanti group was founded by Prince Emmanuel Charles Edwards in Jamaica in 1958, prior to Jamaica's independence in 1962. All right, so I'm gonna start right there, and I'm gonna show you who Emmanuel Charles Edwards is. Let's go ahead and let's put that information up. Let me see. No, that's not him. Hold on, that's the wrong person. My bad, wrong individual. That's not him. Okay. All right, this is him. This is Charles Edwards. This is Charles Edwards, who is known as Emmanuel Charles Edward. All right. That's him. He was the founder of the Bobo Ashanti tribe. So let's dig into a little bit of information about him, and then let's look at who the Bobo Ashanti people were. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay. All right. All right. Can't y'all see that screen? I hope y'all can. Okay. So who was Charles Edward? Charles Edward, known as King Emmanuel Charles by his followers, was the founder and the leader of the Ethiopian Africa Black International Congress. True Church of Divine Salvation. Charles is regarded to have established the churchill order of Melchizedek, which governs this Congress functioning as church and state. On March the 1st, 1958, the EABIC was formed, now headquartered in Bull Bay, Jamaica. This group of Rastafari soon became known as Bobo Ashanti, adopting their name from the Ashanti tribe in Ghana. Charles taught that the African diaspora scattered across the earth and predominantly in the West are the descendant of the Israelites, and his followers acknowledge him as the Black Moses. And this dispensation to return all slave descendants to their original homeland, Ethiopia. For this reason, this Congress was formed and church developed, agitating for the freedom, redemption, and international repatriation. I'm sorry for mispronouncing it, of his people. Charles fought relentlessly for the rights of his people and soon became publicly respected and given the titles Black Christ in Flesh. He is held by the Bobo Ashanti to be a member of their Holy Trinity. Charles taught that God dwelt in flesh and the celestial Trinity of God manifests in flesh upon earth is fulfilled in the capacity of prophet, priest, and king. The triune positions of the Bobo Ashanti Trinity are as follows: Marcus Garvey, the prophet, Emmanuel Charles as priest, and Haile Selassie as king. All right, and so here's the reference at the bottom. Okay, so that's the information about Charles Edwards. It's not a whole lot of information on him, but that's a little bit about his biography. It doesn't say what date he was born. It just say that he was born on the year 1915 and he died in 1994. So, yeah. All right. So let's get back to the original information about the Bobo Ashanti. Okay. All right, so here we go. Back to his information. So again, the Bobo Ashanti tribe was founded by Emmanuel Charles Edward in 1958. Okay, and this was prior to the Jamaica's independence, which took place in 1962. The name, of course, Bobo means black, and Ashanti is the name of a tribe from Ghana, of which many of the slaves that were taken from Africa to Jamaica were members. The Bobo Ashanti advocated repatriation of all black people to Africa, meaning that migrate back to Africa, etc., and that black people should be reimbursed monetarily for slavery reparation, which he got the right idea. That's been talked about for the longest. The Bobo Ashanti uses Revelation 5 to justify Prince Emmanuel as the reincarnation of Christ, the reincarnated black Christ in a priestly state. By most members of the Bobo Ashanti, he was called Prince Emmanuel Charles Edward without mother or father, a priest of Massachusetts, the black Christ in the flesh. Prince Emmanuel is called Dada by his followers, who see him as part of a holy trinity, in which Haile Selassie of Ethiopia is king/god, Marcus Garvey is prophet, and Emmanuel is high priest after the priesthood order of Massachusetts. Also, almost all sacred songs and tributes to their ancient trinity of prophet, priest, and king ends with the phrase Holy Emmanuel first, Haile Selassie Jah Rastafari. Okay, so, and it goes on to say the Bobo Ashanti are a self-sufficient group whose members grow their own produce. They also live separately from society and the other Rastafari orders in their current base in the 9 miles area of Bull Bay, Jamaica. They function similarly to the Accompong Maroons, and even though it is not official, like an independent nation within Jamaica with their own constitution, they do not accept the values and lifestyles of the wider Jamaican society. The members of the Bobo Ashanti House, sometimes called Bobo Dreads, dress very differently from all the other orders, wearing long robes and very tightly wrapped turbans. The Bobo Ashanti lifestyle closely emulates that of the Old Testament Mosaic law, including hygiene law for menstruating women and the observation of the Sabbath from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, when no work is allowed. The consumption of salt and oil is avoided. Members of the order do not smoke marijuana in public, as it is only reserved for worship among members. All right. So Bobos greet each other using the formal address, bless, love, my lord and empress, and are most notable for wearing of turbans and long flowing robes, as well as brooms they carry with them, which signify cleanness. These brooms and other crafts, such as straw hats, are also sold in Kingston as a way to provide funds for the community. The Bobos have established a strong relationship with the local community outside of Bobo Hill and often invite people to their service. Membership of the Ethiopian African Black International Congress is increasingly growing globally, as their members are seen in Africa, Europe, North and South America, throughout the Caribbean. A turban is not always a sign of a Bobo. There has also been a noted trend among some Rastafari outside of the Bobo order in the wearing of turbans, as evident amongst some reggae artists. Nevertheless, these Rastas are often mistaken for Bobos in Jamaica. Among Bobo dreads, it is rarely accepted that being a member of the priesthood order requires more than simply the covering of one's head. Bobos say that Africa is the name that the European colonizer gave to Ethiopia, or Jerusalem. As to the faith, and in the Bobo and Rastafari conception, the true Ethiopian Israelites are black men and women who are royal Ethiopians from creation birth, scattered during the African diaspora. Bobos believe that black skin blessed by the sun is original, and they consider black women as mothers of creation. Women cover their legs, arms, and head in the practice of the Queen Omega principle. Nearly all the men within the community are seen as prophets or priests, whose function are to reason and conduct religious parliamentary services, respectively. All right. Several musicians are members of the Bobo Ashanti, including the Abyssinians, Anthony B. Capleton, Sizzle Kalonji, Fanta Moja, Ja Mason, Junior Kelly, Luton Thea, Rod Shalom, Pressure, and Junior Reed. Okay, so now that's the information about the Bobo Ashanti. From my experience, okay, I have been to one of their events. I think it was probably the Bobo Ashanti event. I know it was a Rasta event where they had people gather around and they were smoking on the pipe, the big old pipe. They were taking turns smoking it and whatnot, and they was singing some spiritual hymns. The drum was playing and whatnot. And so the men had their dreadlocks and their long beard. They had to take their hat off. They couldn't walk in there with the hat on. So when you in the circle and you're part of a congregation, you cannot have your hat on as a man, so you have to take it off. But as a woman, you have to cover yourself up. You got to cover your head. You got to cover your legs. You got to cover all of that. So yeah, that's a part of their ritual and their custom practice that the women got to cover and the men have their dreads down. So I believe it was the Bobo Ashanti event that I went to. I didn't see. I'm just now learning. I didn't even know there was multiple tribes, or excuse me, multiple denomination. I say tribes, denomination. I know there was different denomination of the Rastafarian movement. I thought it was just one single movement, but obviously there's various forms of it. And these happen to be the very common ones. So what I'm gonna do is go on to the next one. Well, you know what? As a matter of fact, before I do that, I want to know, or I'm curious to know about the Queen Omega. What's the Queen Omega? Who was the Queen Omega? That's interesting. All right, so right here, this is the Queen Omega. So it's Mini Asfa. Mini Asfa, baptismal name, Walata Georgis. So I guess she was born on April the 3rd, 1891, and she died February the 15th, 1962. She was the Empress Consort of Ethiopian Empire. She was the wife of Emperor Haile Selassie. All right, so let's look at a little bit about her background. And Minnie Asfa was born in Ambasso. She was a daughter of Asfa Gentare of Ambasso and Wazizo Sahim Michael. Her mother was the daughter of Nigis Michael of Wullo, and her uncle was Emperor Iyasu V, or Iyasu the Fifth, I believe. Sorry about that. According to both published and unpublished report, the then Wozo Mini Asafo was first given in marriage by her family to the prominent Wolo nobleman Dejamot Ali Cherecha at a very young age, and was the prevailing custom. All right, she bore him 2 children, a daughter, Wislow Balanashi Ali, and a son, Jetar Ashfa Ali. All right, so let's skip all the way down. That's a little too much information to read. So anyway, it says the account given the autobiography of the Emperor, My Life and Ethiopia's Progress mentioned no previous marriage or children of Empress Mene, and no such ordered by Iyasu, but states only that at the age of 20 they were married by their own mutual consent, and describe her as a woman without any malice whatsoever. When Tafari Malkonen became Emperor of Ethiopia as Haile Selassie I, Mene Ashafa was crowned as Empress at his side. So Empress Mene had no children by Ras Lausige. So, anyways, okay, so to sum it all up, I'm not gonna read all of this. Obviously, she was the wife of Haile Selassie, so they was married at one point in time. She became the empress while he was the emperor. So that's the story, and that's the backstory. This is her right here. All right. So, anyways, let's get back to business. All right. So, let's look up some more information. Let's see what time it is. Okay, I'm good. Okay, so I'm back. All right, let's look up more information. Let's look at the 12 tribes of Israel. What's the 12 tribes of Israel? And who was the founder? All right, so the founder of the 12 tribes of Israel was Bernard Carleton. Now, who's Bernard Carleton? All right, so that's Bernard Carleton. That's the founder of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right. And he founded that movement in 1968. He was the founder. This is a picture of him. Okay. All righty. So let's go ahead and let's find out about this particular denomination. All right. So the 12 Tribe of Israel is a Rastafari group founded in Kingston, Jamaica in 1968, now functioning worldwide. Its founder, Bernard Carleton, was known as Prophet God and taught his students to read the Bible a chapter a day. 12 Tribe of Israel, Rastafari organization, accept Jesus Christ as Master and Savior, and Haile Selassie the first as divinely chosen by the Creator to represent him on earth. Due to the stigma associated with slavery and the use of the name Jesus by outsiders, some Rastafari refer to use the ancient name of the Messiah, which is Yahshua or Yeshua or Yeshua, and Isa, Christo. So these are Ge'ez, Amharic, and Hebrew words. Haile Selassie is seen as a divinely anointed king in the lineage of Kings David and Solomon. While he is considered a type/representation of the Messiah in kingly character, he is not Yeshua, the Messiah, Jesus Christo himself, but a representative of the everlasting Davidic covenant, which is to fulfill by the Messiah, Yeshua, Isa Cristo, when he returns as the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, or Yahuda, as they say. All right. Then it goes on to say the 12 tribes symbolically is based on Jacob's 12 sons and corresponding to the months of the ancient Israel or Israelite calendar, beginning with April and Reuben. The Most High, Yahweh, gave Yaqub a new name, which was Yisrael or Israel. Some people further relate the 12 tribes to a metaphysical signs. Thus Bob Marley came from the tribe of Yosef. The 11 of the biblical Yisrael, 12 children, because he was born in February. The name Levi in Jaman Levi represent the third child who was born to Yaqub. Another well-known reggae group of this organization is Israel Vibration. All right. Bob Marley, by quoting a biblical passage about Joseph on the album cover of Rastaman Vibration, was acknowledging his own support for this set. Dennis Brown, Freddie McGregor, Mikey Dredd, Luciano, and many other roots reggae artists were also with the 12 tribe of Israel. Some hold that everyone should be free to light up the pipe, but only if they want to. Like its precursor, Naya Binhi, 12 Tribes is very anti-racist and often preaches love towards all people, but still ascribe to Black uplift as foretold by Marcus Garvey. All right. So last but not least, we're going to go into Naya Binhi, also known as the Naya Binhi Order, or also known as Haile Selassie I theocratical order of the Nabihi reign. All right. Ooh. So yeah, that's a lot of information. A lot of stuff that I didn't know. So as you can see, I'm new to this. So I know some of you might know about it, and there's those of you that never heard of them. But sounds like to me the 12 tribes of Israel, they're more like the Israelites, like the Hebrew Israelites. So, but they're the Hebrew Israelites of Jamaica. That's just my honest opinion after reading all that, because it's a similar ideology that the Hebrew Israelites have. So they're like the Hebrew Israelites of Jamaica. You know, those who follow the what can I say? Actually, I would say that the what do they call themselves? What's the name of the Hebrew Israelite they called? I think they call themselves the African Hebrew Israelites. I'm trying to think. What's the brother's name that Benjamin? Yeah, Benjamin's organization. I think they was African Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, because they base their principle off of African philosophy as well, but they also live in demonic Israel. So yeah, that's what they kind of remind me of, the 12 tribe of Israel. They remind me of Benjamin's organization. So yeah, it's very similar. So to me, they're just Hebrew Israelite that's happen to be Rastafarians, or Hebrew Israelites that happen to be in Jamaica or from Jamaica. Yeah, okay, they do. However, they uphold the African principles. So this particular group of the 12 tribe of Israel, they do love everybody, but they also uphold African principle, and they also believe in Black nationalism. But you know what? With that being said, I have to keep moving. So I'm gonna go on to the last but not least, the final stage of this final denomination. Although there's so many of them, but yeah, this one is the last one. So let me go ahead and go back to the article. All right. So this one is called the Nabihi order, which is also known as the Haile Selassie I theocratical order of the Nabihi reign, the oldest of all the Rastafarian mansions, named after Queen Nabihi, a 19th century Ugandan ruler who fought against the British Empire. It may also be spelled in a variety of other ways, such as Nabihi or Nabihi without the H or without the I, etc. So it was first used to describe an East African possession cult located in the areas of South Uganda and North Rwanda in 1700 CE. Early missionaries and anthropologists named the Uganda-Rwanda clans the Nabihi cult because their culture was based on the veneration of the goddess spirit, Nabihi. The Nabihi cult is said to have thrived due to the possession of the goddess Nabihi through dance and religious saints or saints. Science, I guess that's how you say it, science, whatever. Anyways, various oral tradition exists that explains how Nabihi became a reverent goddess. One account states that in 1700 CE, two tribes inhabited the Uganda-Rwanda area, the Shambo and this one is, I guess, is Begeshi Katwa. Queen Katami, who is said to have possessed a sacred drum of phenomenal power, ruled the Begashi Katwa tribe. Katami died. She was given immoral status and the name Nabihi. Another tradition states that Queen Nabihi ruled the northern West Tanzania kingdom of Karawi and married the chief of Mporo from the southwestern kingdom of Uganda. Envious of the queen's power, the ruler ordered her death, which is said to have brought untold horrors to his kingdom. After her death, her spirit continued to be praised and to possess her followers for the next 2 centuries. The Bigishi Katawa tribe was eventually defeated by the Shambo clan, who adopted the Bigishi Katawa's ritual for Nabihi. A century later, the Shambo were defeated by the cultivating Kinga clan. There are legends that the Shambo's defeat is connected to the attempt to kill a woman who was possessed by Nabihi. Oh, this get interesting. Once the Kinga tribe reigned over the land, Nabihi became known as the matriarchal power. And the Kinga's century rule is characterized by the reign of Nabihi priestesses. Kinga women who perceived Nabihi's blessing were said to be possessed by Nabihi, came to be called Zibagura. Eventually, the revered Bagrira gained political dominion and became governors of the Kinga people, living a dual life of political and spiritual leadership. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip all the way down. The Nabihi theocracy government was named for a legendary Amazon queen of the same name who was said to have possessed a Ugandan woman named Mahumusa. In 19th century, Mahumusa inspired a movement rebelling against African colonial authorities. Though she was captured in 1913, alleged possession by Nabihi continued, mostly afflicting women. Okay, so however, Nabihi doesn't have any linkage to or relationship with Ethiopian history or Haile Selassie. It is a part of the Rastafari movement and a manifestation of the wisdom of Jah. Nabihi are considered the strictest mention of the Rastafari movement in Jamaica, preaching the ideas of a global theocracy to be headed by Emperor Haile Selassie I. Okay, whom they proclaim to be the promised Messiah and incarnation of Jah the Supreme. Now, they have also been known to be very anti-racist, but reflect a deep belief in the uplift of the Black race. They also express that oppressors towards anybody would be punished by Jah. People of the Nahabihi faith often, but not always, affiliate themselves with nonviolence. Sometimes they may embrace just war theory while not necessarily approving of St. Augustine's other principles. However, the Nabihi Manifesto reads, imitate relation with whites is strictly forbidden. A Nahabihi man should not abide with a woman who is not of Rastafari liberty. All right, then it goes on to talk about the music. The Nabihi music. The Nabihi resistance inspired a number of Jamaican Rastafari who incorporated what are known as Nabihi chants, also Bihi, into their celebration graduation. The rhythms of these chants were eventually an influence of popular ska, rocksteady, and reggae music. Three kinds of drums called harps are used in Nabihi bass, also known as the Pope Smasher or Vatican Basher, reflecting a Rasta association between Catholicism and Babylon. The middle pitch Funde and Akite. The Akite, also known as the repeater, plays an improvised syncopation. The Funde plays a regular 1-2 beat, and the bass drum strikes loudly on the first beat and softly on the third beat of 4. When groups of players get together, only one Akite player may play at any one time. The other drums keep regular rhythms while the Akite players solo in the form of a conversation. Count Ozzy was the first to record Nabihi, and he helped to establish and maintain Rastafari culture. Nabihi drumming is not exclusive to the Nabihi order and is coming to our Rastafari. Its rhythm are the basis of reggae music through the influential ska band, the Scotlights. It is said that their drummer revolutionized Jamaican music by combining the various Nabihi parts into a complete drum kit, which combined with jazz to create an entirely new form of music known as ska. Nabihi rhythms were largely a creation of Count Ozzy, who incorporated influences from traditional Jamaican kulimba drumming, especially the form of the drums themselves, with songs and rhythms learned from the recordings of Nigerian musician Babatunde Alatunji. Bihi chanting typically includes recitation of the Psalms, but may also include variation well-known Christian hymns. Though Count Ozzy is very clear the most influential Bihi drummer, practically invented the genre, the recordings of Ras Michael and the Sons of Niggas, as well as the Rastafari elders, have contributed to the popularity of the music. Okay. Though Nahabihi music operates as a form of Rasta religious music outside reggae, musicians such as Bob Marley and even non-Rasta such as Prince Buster, who was Muslim, and Jimmy Cliff used the idiom in some songs. Recently, dancehall sensation Sizzla, American roots reggae artists such as Groundation and hip hop have used Nabihi drums extensively in their recordings, though sometimes claim to be a direct continuation of an African cultural form. Nabihi drumming is best seen as the voice of a people rediscovering their African roots. Combining Jamaican tradition with newly acquired African ones, Count Ozzy and others synthesized his country's African tradition and reinvigorated them with the influences of Nigerian mass drummer Babatunde Alatunji. As a comparison of Count Ozzy's tale of Mozambique and Alatunji's earlier drums of passion will reveal. Indeed, it is that combination of inherent traditions and conscious rediscovery of lost African tradition that makes Nabihi drumming and Rasta so powerful. All right, so with that being said, that's the end of the information. And here are the reference at the bottom. Further reading and external link. Okay. Okay, so with that being said, you can also find other information. There's other PDFs that I have on here, so you guys can look it up for yourself. So here's the source. Comes from the Caribbean Quarterly, a journal of Caribbean culture. The Many Faces of Rasta, Doctrinal Diversity Within the Rasta Movement by Michael Barnett. It was written in 2005. I hope you guys can see that. Yeah, it was written in 2005. So, you can just find this article online. You can go on Google Scholar and look up the information and just type in the Mansions of Rastafari, and it gives you more detail and explains a little bit more in depth about the various forms of the movements. Okay. Let's see, what else can we find on here? Oh, all right. So here's another one, the Ethiopian Zion Coptic Church. All right, so it says the Ethiopian Zion Coptic Church emerged in Jamaica as one of the splinter groups of the Ethiopian World Federation during the 1940s. The founder of the movement was Luvia Williams, a carpenter's son, who devised the theology and doctrines of the church. Affectionately referred to as Brother Love by the Coptics, Luvia Williams was well known for his establishment of the theological dialogues among the men of his church, accompanied by ganja smoking. He also participated in reasoning sessions with the Rastafari outside his church, such as the Count Ozzy Rastafari congregation of December 1949, which took place at Warwick Hill in Jamaica. The Coptic church started at Mountain View Avenue in Kingston and drifted from one place to another in Kingston until 1976, at which time it moved to White Horses in the parish of St. Thomas. When Luva Williams died in 1969, there was a temporary breakup of the church until the arrival of a young Jamaican, George Baker Ivy, who struggled to reassemble the scattered brethren. Ivy was the first elder to admit whites into the camp and, in fact, encouraged disaffectionate Americans to come to Jamaica and learn the ways of the church. Ivy died mysteriously in 1970, at which time Laurentine Dickens, Keith Gordon, and Walter Wells came on the scene. When the church was formally incorporated, Keith Gordon served as its bishop, Lauren Dickens as its chief elder, and Walter Wells as an elder. And so this is a story about the Ethiopian Zion Coptic Church. Okay. So this is one source and one article that you guys can look up, reliable source at that. Again, it comes from the Caribbean Quarterly, a journal of Caribbean culture that was written in 2005 by Michael Barnett. So the Many Faces of Rasta, Doctrinal Diversity Within the Rasta Movement. All right, so that's that information. And I got 3 more information that I want to show you guys. No, actually 2 more. Sorry. All right, so there's a book on here that I have, a PDF. All right. So the PDF is called The Rastafari and the Arts. An introduction. Darren J. N. Middleton. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at. It was written in 2015, so it has not been that long ago. All right, so this one, let's start with chapter 1, a smart way to view Rastafari. Let's start there. All right, so the author, you know what? No, that's not a good idea. Hold on, let me start another chapter. All right, then let me look at another chapter. Okay, let's look at Rastafari literary arts. Okay, let's look at that. All right, so it says, although observers of Rastafari often concentrate on reggae music and not without good reason, many do so at the expense of examining the movement's growing presence in literary art. Here I correct this oversight by tackling 2 early novels and then by taking up several modern stories. First, I consider how Roger Myers and Orlando Patterson located Locksmen at the center of their fiction. All right. So it goes on to say that the UWI report 1960, His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I was crowned in November of 1930, as the last chapter notes, and in the first 20 or so years that followed his ascension to the throne, Jamaican Rastafari began to develop the religious dimension that became the movement's identity markers. Selassie divinity, Ethiopianism, personal and communal black somebodyness, dreadlocks, ganja smoking, and an enthusiastic hope for an intimate repatriation to Africa. Generally, Rastafari of the 1940s, 1950 were pugnacious. Hundreds of them marched through the Kingston, annexed public property, staged protests, defiled social convention, and some militant Rastas broke the law. For their part, the Jamaican authorities hurriedly sought to repress the movement. Rasta reasoning sessions were often broken up by the police, for example, and several collective efforts to repatriate ending in fighting and failure. As Helene Lee's biography of Leonard Howe testifies, the police raids on Howe's Rastafari commune epitomized mounting tensions. By the late 1950s, the Jamaican people had enough, as Ennis B. Edmonds reports. Rastas were no longer regarded as curious misfits or belonging to a lunatic fringe. Many people seriously believed that they were a credible threat to national security, and they were treated that way by politicians, law enforcement. The then Premier Norman Manley used the country's newspaper to castigate the Rastas as dangerous enemies of Jamaica and a serious threat to its push for independence. He appealed to the public to monitor and report on the movements and activities of the Rastas. All right, so this is just this is a PDF. an ebook that you can look up. I'm quite sure you can find it on Amazon. It was written in 2015. It's called The Rastafari and the Arts. All right. All right. So, there's another book that I want to show you guys. All right, then. So it's another book called Black Paradise. Hold on. I'm trying to zoom this up. So this book is called Black Paradise, Rastafarian Movement by Peter B. Clark. And of course, you can go to archive.org and just type in the name of any article or any book that you're looking for. You can put in the name of any title and it'll pop up. So this is a good website because it has a lot of source. It has a lot of PDFs, information that you're looking for. Whatever you really need, you can really pretty much find it on this page. But anyways, so this book is called Black Paradise, Rastafarian Movement. Let me zoom that up a little bit. Ooh. All right. So this one says the African diaspora back to Africa movement and the rise of Ethiopianism. Marcus Garvey, Black Moses and prophet of the God of Ethiopia. Babylon, the rise and development of Rastafarian movement, beliefs, Rastafarian lifestyles and ritual from self-awareness to brotherhood of man. So let's see. Let's look at from self-awareness to brotherhood of men, because we already talked about the lifestyles and the belief, etc. Hold on, let me go back. That was page 95. Let's go to page 95. All right. So right here is the title of this chapter is From Self-Awareness to Brotherhood of Man. They know who they are, a non-Rasta Ethiopian. Rastafarians have never sought to be accepted by the wider society where acceptance has meant conformity, that would be to undermine the whole purpose of being a Rasta, which is to live naturally in the African way and to make Ethiopia symbolic of Africa and all things African, the center of their universe. This is seen as an essential prerequisites of self-realization to seek acceptance by conforming to the standards and norms of Babylon is simply to perpetuate a process begun with slavery and continued during the era of colonialism and neo-colonialism, which if not reversed will result in total loss of memory and therefore of that which makes an individual and a people what they are. Trying to see if I can. All right, and it says the cultivation of locks, as we have seen, is regarded as biblically inspired and in accordance with the laws of nature, but also like the Rasta dress and lifestyle generally is meant to shock the wider society into recognizing and eventually accepting that Rastas are different and more precisely that they are a people, a race with their own customs, history, culture, and worldview, which ought to be taken seriously and never allowed to perish. As one Rasta expressed it, we know that in dressing like this, I will be regarded as mad, dangerous, and all that. But I don't care, for I wants freedom from all people to be themselves. Rastas, and they are by no means alone in this, pose a fundamental question: what sort of life, what sort of a world, and above all, what sort of self can survive and be sustained that has no memory of its own past and of its mooring in time? As Buñuel put it, you have to begin to lose your memory, if only in bits and pieces, to realize that memory is what makes our lives. Life without memory is no life at all. Without it, we are nothing. All right, so that's chapter 7 in this book called The Black Paradise, the Rastafarian Movement. So let's see what year this book came out. So this book was written in 1986, but it came out again or reprinted by the Borgo Press in 1994. All right, so but it came out in 1986. All right. This is just one of the books that can be found on here. There's so many books regarding to Rastafarian movement, but I happen to chose this one because I thought it was more appealing and is more interesting. So I said, well, I can just go ahead and use this instead. So, but there's so many information that can be found on here on this website. Again, you just have to take the time and just do your own research. All right. So, okay. But anyways, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate that a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. And I hope you all have a wonderful day or a wonderful evening, wherever you may be in the world. Your time zone is different from mine. So I will reconnect with you guys again, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you like the channel. Make sure you share the channel, all that great stuff. And whenever I get on, just, make sure you keep that as a reminder. And if you want to send some donation to my Cash App, that's my Cash App information at the bottom of the screen. So if you want to send something, you can go ahead and do so. I appreciate that as well. But until then, you guys have a good one, and I'll reconnect with you all. All right. With that being said, peace and power and elevation be to all of you. Thank you so much.